Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're in Burr Oak Cemetery in Alsip, Illinois, and the topic of today's video is going to be Emmett Till. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened to him, and we're going to go and visit where he's buried here at this cemetery. Now, a little bit of background. Emmett Till was born and raised in Chicago, and during his summer break in 1955, he went to visit his family in Mississippi. He and a couple other kids were visiting a grocery store that was owned by Carolyn Bryant and her husband Roy. Now, what actually happened is kind of in debate. Nobody completely knows. But what we do know is that Carolyn Bryant accused Emmett of whistling at her or touching her hand or, something to that effect. And she went home and told her husband. And a few nights later, her husband and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, they showed up at the house where Emmett Till was staying, who was his great uncle, and they abducted Emmett Till at gunpoint. Now, they brutally beat him before shooting him in the head, and then they dumped his body in the Tallahatchie River. And as it is, this is a pretty brutal story. It's pretty gruesome. There are photos of the body, but I'm not going to show that on this video. If you want to see them, they're really easy to find, but it's a horrible story. But 3 days later, his body was discovered and he was flown to Chicago. Now, his mother insisted on an open casket public funeral that was attended by thousands of people, and it put a spotlight on the civil rights movement in the South. And it was only a couple months later than that we started seeing Martin Luther King Jr. giving speeches and Rosa Parks not giving up her seat on the bus. And, things started to change a little bit. And a lot of it is because of this case. The brutality of it and the fact that Emmett Till was only 14 years old when this happened. It was just a horrible thing. But September of 1955, there was an all-white jury that found Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam not guilty of Emmett Till's murder, and they were protected against double jeopardy, and they couldn't be retried for this case, so it didn't matter if they told their story or not. But the two men publicly admitted in a 1956 interview with Look magazine that they had tortured and killed Emmett Till, and they sold the story of how they did it for $4,000. Now, that's a pretty disgusting thing by itself, but this is the final resting place of Emmett Till. Now, there is a little other story here at this cemetery, and I did a video on this a couple weeks ago, but there was a scandal at this cemetery where they were digging up old burial plots, and Emmett Till's original casket was dug up and was found on the property of this cemetery, and he was reburied and everything, but he is laid to rest now. But it's a very sad thing what happened to him, a very tragic story, and there's a lot more information out there if you want to dig down that rabbit hole, but it's just a horrible story. And it is important to history to remember these kinds of things so that history doesn't repeat itself. These were very difficult times for a lot of different people, especially in the South. And, things like this, it was a catalyst for what would become the civil rights movement. But this is the final resting place of Emmett Till. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on this adventure. Be sure to check out some of my other videos. There's a lot of good stuff that I've already done and a lot of good stuff coming up. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and have a safe and good weekend.